Oh, we're close off?
So what I was gonna say is you could let them know, I have, one of my garment vendors, based upon the amount of volume I do with them, they give me, credit so I can get shirts free.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I have so much in a marketing fund that, because they're raising money, they don't, yeah. So I can get, if they're not picky about what they want, I can cash in my marketing fund for
Gotcha,
that.
okay, alright.
Last year I used it on the fair, so I was able to help them.
Alright, here we go.
Okay, someone turn the heat on in here.
I'm gonna go ahead and start this.
Yeah.
Is phase one completely done yet or not yet?
Not quite.
And just record, right?
But almost.
Record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Alright. Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, March 13th, 2023. This is a special meeting for the City Council of Woodland. We'll be conducting interviews for the vacant position on City Council. At this time, please ensure that your cell phones are silenced and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Hogan, you please take the roll this evening.
Councilmember Hall,
Present.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Present.
Councilmember Holland,
Present.
Councilmember Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Rounds,
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
I'm here.
All right, everyone is here. I'll go through the process this evening. For those of you that haven't been through it before, I'm seeing a few names on here that went through the last interview process that was conducted a few weeks ago. But at this time, we've come to the agenda itself this evening.
Move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Are we doing
Second.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And who was my second? I missed it. Mr. Hall. Moved by Councilmember Hall and second by Councilmember Hall. Mrs. Hogan.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. The agenda has been approved. Going through the process this evening, the candidates that are listed in front of me, we have 5 of them this evening, will be asked to step out into the hallway, and each candidate will be drawn randomly as the council rules out of my little cup up here and called in that way. There will be a series of 12 questions that will be asked by council. All the questions will be the exact same delivery as they were to each candidate, so there's no strain from the program. Everybody will have an opportunity to answer those questions. Unlike this time versus last time, which we missed, was a 2-minute introduction. Each candidate will be given a 2-minute introduction as they come to the podium, and from there we'll start the questions. And then there will be one last question at the end, which I'll just get it out right now. It's going to be, is there anything else that you failed to tell us during the meeting or during the interview process? You'll have one last opportunity to answer that question and provide information to council. After that, we'll go into an executive session and discuss qualifications, and then come back out, and hopefully council can come to an agreement for council position number 4 this evening. At this time, it has been requested by one candidate who is not here yet that council suspend the rules to allow for the random draw and put the individual at the last position. So it is up to council if they would like to change those rules or continue on with the process at hand.
Make a motion to amend the rules. The second.
Motion on the floor by Councilmember Burke, seconded by Councilmember Hall, to amend the rules to allow for that candidate to go last.
To the end.
Oh, to the end. All right. Mr. Burke, any discussion on that?
No, I think we need to interview them all.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Just a few minutes.
No, nothing. Further discussion on that? Okay. Mrs. Hogan, please take the roll to allow candidate Gabriel Houston to go last this evening.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye. All right, the ayes have it. Moving on, I'll have all the applicants step out of the room, but I'll draw the first name before we do that, just so you don't have to walk out there and walk back in. How about that? And the first candidate on the will be Mr. Douglas Frymark Jr. Did I get that right? I always say it wrong. That's good. I'm close. All right, so I'll have the other three candidates that are in the room step out, and we will call you in individually. So, Mr. Douglas, if you want to step up to the podium there.
Thanks for the privilege to go first.
Did you
Two
did you go
times
first
in a
last
row.
time too? Did you go first last
I
time?
did. Luck of the draw.
Mr.
like-
Boyce, you want to make sure that door is shut though, please.
Why can't I get that lucky in lottery
Okay.
tickets and stuff?
I'm looking around here before we get started here. I just want to make sure everybody's out of the room. He's going to go last. Mrs. Keene stepped out. Mr. Lynette stepped out. And I'm assuming, since this gentleman here stepped out, that would be Mr. Alderman. Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, let the record reflect that all candidates are outside with the exception of Mr. Douglas Frymark. You got to help me out.
Frymark.
Frymark.
Doug.
Doug
anything.
Frymark. All right.
Call me
yes.
anything except late for dinner, guys.
All right. At this time, we're going to go ahead and
Christ.
start the 2-minute clock for you, and we'll allow you a 2-minute opener to tell council about yourself, and then from there we'll start the questions similar
Good.
to last time.
This is the short version of what I want to tell you guys tonight. Congratulations. Thank you.
It's your coffee I smell.
Thank you.
I have a nose for coffee. Can you tell? Thank you. Awesome, thank you.
So I'm going to be brief. I think you all heard me last time. Got a general idea of who I am and where I'm coming from, what I think I can do, and been in this town for 2 years now. And this is a great little community. I want to keep it that way. Town council is the instrument that does the majority of that, coupled with our local police department. That's what really counts here as far as making it livability. In my estimation, we count on local businesses to do their part and the citizens to vote.
Is your mic working? It seems real soft.
Testing 1, 2. I guess I just gotta get closer to it, huh?
So
There
that's
we
It
go.
seems real soft.
Let me do that. I'm pretty soft-spoken, except on occasion. Anyway, guys, we'll just get right to it, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir. And with that, Mr. Burke, we're going to kick it off to you for question number 1.
Okay, tell us about your previous public service to the Woodland community, and have you ever attended a council meeting before?
I've attended them, yes, many council meetings over the years. Hold no public office currently in the local area here. Have elsewhere. I'm a current board of directors member of the Washington Manufacturer Homeowners Association, as well as a member of the local board at on Glen Club Road over there, Woodland East Community. I contribute to those boards on occasion, so I've got quite a bit of board experience, maybe on 6 or 7 other boards throughout my life. As a matter of fact, well, we'll get to that. The more I talk to people in this community, the more I realize that these folks are good folks. They're good folks wherever you go, anywhere in the country. But I especially like it around here. We got great weather, moderate, not too cold, not too hot. It's a great place to live, and I want to keep it that way.
Right. Mrs. Holland.
Are there any issues that are of particular interest to you, and what do you hope to accomplish during the appointed term as a council member?
Well, I think the traffic situation needs improvement. I think we all do, especially exit 21 here. We're growing, and we want to grow in a controlled manner that's good for all citizens on it. We certainly don't want to be congested or drive people away from our community. So I think that's an important consideration in the future. You know, Will joined the force here years ago just to work on the water. And I share his frustrations on it too. There's probably not a whole lot that can be done, but we need to look at everything and anything that makes sense and do the right thing whenever we possibly can. Some things you just can't fix, but usually you can improve it a little bit. If nothing else, just telling everybody what there's, what the real situation is, saying, guys, this is what we can do and this is what we can't do. Most people accept that if they think you're being honest with them and up front.
Mrs. Raines?
City council members must attend numerous meetings and keep up with multiple issues. Council meetings typically start at 7 p.m. on the first and third Monday of each month. And committee meetings prior to city council meetings can start as early as 5 or 6 p.m. Are you able to commit to this amount of time and arrange your schedule to participate fully as a member of the city council? And if so, explain how you will handle the demands of the job.
Absolutely. My day job, and several of you have day jobs, commitments during the day, as a national IT security manager for a large medical holding company, keeps me occupied. I usually work Eastern Standard Time, so I start 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, work online, usually done by noon. But I expect to put in more than just 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 first and third Mondays, because I like to join a couple of the standing committees, lend my experience to those when appropriate on it. So I expect it'll be more time. But you're also a representative to the citizens of our community in large. You get stopped by them a lot, and you don't get paid for that. But you got to have the right approach and the right attitude in your heart to be able to communicate to them. And sometimes you can reach out to them, but most of the time they'll reach out to you. As city town council members, people frequently will stop and want to talk to you, bend your ear. You have to be careful about that. But I think that's extra time that you don't get paid for, that volunteers, as we all would be, need to consider that as an important part of the job too.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Do you intend to file for a council position in the next regular election?
Simple answer is yes.
All right, what is the role of an individual Woodland City Council member?
Well, I got a half a dozen injuries down there. You guys can look at those. That's some of them. Punctuality of meetings is important. Commitment to the position and to the city, I think, is the most important thing. And whatever it takes to do as good a job as humanly possible. None of us are perfect, guys, and nobody knows everything. In my 75 plus years, I've begun to realize that more and more. I'll tell you, my kids and my grandkids, and now great grandkids, taught me a lot that I wish I knew when I was 25 or 30. I think those 6 items, you have them all in front of you. Planning for the future. But being a good member of the council is just more than just attending meetings. It's a mindset and an attitude too.
Mr. Hart?
Do you have any experience in public finance or reviewing, implementing, and tracking budgets? I think
Not from a public standpoint, but from a private standpoint, I've managed several small companies. My current budget where I work now professionally is about $4 million a year and 42 people. So I think I have a little bit of experience when it comes to numbers. I can balance a checkbook as well as anybody. But more importantly, what does it come to? You need to have good common sense when how you spend money. You need to be, I'm a little bit more on the conservative side. Made my mistakes about misspending money, my own personal finances over the year. And I guess that's what you really got to reflect on occasionally. How do you spend other people's money? Carefully, well planned. So if they're looking over your shoulder and you're writing a check, they would agree with it. With that attitude in mind, I think all council members should approach the finances of the city in general as they would their own. Don't believe in going to debt any more than it's a good business decision to do so. Try to avoid our federal government's mistakes, as we call here.
Mr. Burke?
Okay, there are many situations where people disagree on issues. How do you handle disagreements and bring them to a closure?
Well, I see some gray hair here. None of us are without, though, conflict through life. And the older you get, the more you realize that's what society is all about. Is not only are we trying to, feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and get along, but conflict is a part of living. On a city level, there's lots of different people doing many, many things. We have different opinions. So I was a supervisor at age 25 and have been one ever since then. Gone to several management courses to teach you how to be better at communicating and solving conflicts on it. My bachelor's degree is in psychology. I think I mentioned that last time. And so that gives me a little bit of insight into interpersonal relationships. I hope I've learned enough things over the years to solve small problems before they become big ones. Important thing is that everybody knows where they're at. You're upfront and honest with people. You don't exaggerate. You don't mislead people. You just tell them right as it is and saying, this is what I believe. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Sometimes as a manager, you have to solve problems and pick sides. And you need to do it carefully, methodically, keeping the best interest of the vast majority of people in mind, and being able to say, yeah, I made that decision and this is why, and hopefully I made the right one, and learn from the ones you didn't do so good on, which will over the years will teach you lessons that you only come from experience.
How would you handle a complaint from a citizen that a city employee was rude?
Similar to any other conflict, you want to listen to the complaint carefully. Make sure that person believes that you have a sincere interest in their perspective. Get all the facts out if you can. Don't jump to conclusions. Be patient. Listen again and again until you're pretty sure you got the full story on it. Communicate to them of your interest to solve the problem. You don't want to just blow them off and say, I don't think that's important. Even the smallest things to some of us are important, very important to others. So document it. Get counsel of other people, your peers, legal department, whoever else might be able to aid you in arriving at a good conclusion and make a good decision about it. That's our job all the time. As parents, as grandparents, you learn some really important lessons in life with them, and we need to apply those in our business decisions with our next door neighbors, as town council members. Life's an entire problem-solving set that we continually can learn from and do better the next time around.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the city in the next 2 years?
You know, there's always problems. There's not enough money to solve them all, and we all know that. Sometimes you keep throwing money at a problem and it gets worse. I'm concerned about the traffic. I'm concerned about our water system. I'm very concerned about keeping our little town as livable as possible from a safety standpoint, and that means law enforcement. That means people that come here that can actually sleep well at night and not have to worry too much about, a high crime area. That's really, really important to me. Especially as a parent and grandparent, you kind of wonder what's happening to your kids when they grow up. I've learned to be more concerned about that one thing, perhaps. safety, personal safety, especially of people that really can't protect themselves so much. And I don't want our town to miss out on those benefits of having a good, safe environment. Utilities and traffic flow and how much business we come in now is a good part of it. But are we succeeding in making our citizens feel safe and making them want to be here? That's a town councilman's job, councilwoman's. That's enough, I think.
Thank you.
If appointed, what would you like to accomplish over the next year?
All the above, in bits and pieces of it, as to the degree possible. Pay attention to the current problems as much as possible. Be aware of what's going on with other cities and what the state is doing. I think I told you last time, I have a whole printout, a whole book here of news articles about what's been going on in the city for the last couple of years. Some interesting reading. And I do believe this town council has had its fair share of tough decisions to make. Willing to participate in that. Throw in what pieces I can on it. Help move the progress of the entire community forward on it. Got to do that carefully, methodically. And then hopefully we're proud of what we did at the end.
How have you helped contribute to making Woodland a better community?
Clean up my backyard, empty my trash, talk to citizens that I meet. I belong to the local homeowners association. We have a men's coffee club that meets Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. It's surprising what guys will discuss over coffee together. You get a variety of, we got a couple dozen that come out regularly. You get a variety of opinions. Things that I haven't seen before. I frequent all the businesses that we need to in town, talk to some of their owners, realize some of the problems that they have on it, the same kind of problems that exist everywhere to some degree. And I think there's a good opportunity for me to contribute to the council to look at those and maybe improve it for everybody on it. Again, you got to really care about what your neighbors are doing, how they're faring, you know, their mental and physical well-being, their children, their grandchildren, and this is the community at large. And what these other communities think of around here too. Sometimes I've seen some council members in the past give the wrong impressions as they go out among the citizens, even in neighboring communities, and give them the wrong idea because they don't think before they talk. And to me, that's an important aspect in our personalities, to think before we talk. Listen twice as often as we talk, but before you start shooting your mouth off, be real careful about what you say, because somebody's going to quote you sooner or later and say, oh yeah, town councilman so-and-so told Missy over there. And you know how the charades goes around, and by the time it gets to the 10th or 11th year, it might have changed significantly, and you want to keep that to a minimum.
What level of experience do you have with Robert's Rules of Order and or other parliamentary procedure systems?
I mean, this little puppy here, huh? A couple inches worth. A lot of good stuff in here. Excellent guideline. I've been parliamentarian in a couple of HOAs in the past. Use it as a guideline, and that's what it is, it's a guideline for the general conduct and well-being in organized meetings. It's got really good points. Some of it comes from last century, but 95% of it I agree with 100%. It's civil, it's organized, and it leaves room for a little bit of interpretation, a little bit of wiggle room when you have a necessity to it.
All right. And final question. Anything you forgot to mention to City Council, or anything City Council should know about your qualifications before we release you this evening?
Did I tell you I'm a certified flight instructor? you know, one of these fly-by-night guys, you know, fly during the day too, because I really have a license to. No, I think I pretty much covered it, guys. That's me in a nutshell. I try to be myself, and I think I've done a better job in the last 30 years than I did in the first 30 or 40 of my life. So, nope, I think I covered it.
All right.
You get a 2-minute closing?
Okay. And with that, I'll give you 2 additional minutes for closing if you'd like.
Okay. Guy's got a big job. You get blamed for lots of stuff. I see some broad shoulders. I'd like to be able to help with that. But you need to trust people. That's the first thing that should come to your mind when you're making major decisions. How much do you trust what they're saying? How well have they organized their thinking? How much research have they done? Can they present themselves in a realistic, upfront manner and be honest with people and say, guys, this is the way I think. Now let's listen to what you have to think. And we'll discuss it as civilized people. We just don't have enough of that going on in this world. I don't like to see so much partisanship. I hate it when they say, oh, I got 2 aisles. You know, I got the left and the right. Whatever happened, you know, to the center? Whatever happened to listening to everybody? And always, life is always a bit of a compromise, no matter what you're doing or who you're doing business with or talking about. But what's best for the vast majority of people is what you try to arrive at in a rational, logical sequence that you can defend not only that moment, but the day after, the year after, the decade after. And you need to learn the lessons of the past and try not to make them again. I think that's my bottom line. So I try to do that on a daily basis. Appreciate you guys' attention.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Congratulations again there, Councilmember Hall.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Appears to me you're going to be a good member of the board.
Yeah, I saw that. No. That's still the last. That was the. And Mr. Doug, would you please send in Mr. Lynette, please? Thank you. I would normally do it, but it will take me a while.
They're just having a good old time
Yeah.
out
They
there.
are.
You-
And they're locked out.
oh, it's locked. Oh. Just trying to keep them out of here.
And Mr. Lynette, when I noticed that you dropped off some stuff for us. Thank you.
Yes.
And when you get up to the podium, would you do me a favor?
Yes.
We've got a few folks at home that are having a hard time hearing, so almost, yeah, as close as or shove it down, whatever's going to be more comfortable for you.
Okay.
But just kind of speak a little bit loud for them. We have.
I'm
1, 2, 3.
relatively loud mouth, so that should work.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So do I. I don't need a microphone.
Okay.
All right. As stated before, you'll have 2 minutes to address council with some opening remarks, and then we'll get right into the questions. All right.
Okay, a little background. I live at 395 Pine Street here in Woodland. I'm 74 years old. I've been here since 2004 when I retired from the military. I spent 34 plus years in the military. Started out in 1968 in the Republic of Vietnam in Da Nang as a air crewman supplying combat support missions. And then I went on to try to become a law enforcement officer. I was no good at it, no good at all. So I finally said, well, I think I'll go back in the military after about 18 months of that. And yeah, I didn't do well there. So they didn't throw me out. I just chose that it would not be a good place for me to be. I thought 38 shells and lawyers were cheap. So I wouldn't, sorry, attorney. So I would move on. 2004, my wife and I moved up here. We bought our first home up on Bozarth Heights Road. My wife's health got worse and worse and worse, and so we moved into town, and we live on Pine Street in, I think they call it Riverbend Estates. Dave and Maggie are neighbors of ours there, and so it's been a really good place to live. We love Woodland. We owned property upriver. When my wife passed away, I decided to sell it, and I don't have it up there anymore. I have 2 children. I have a 50-year-old son and a 46-year-old daughter. My son is in the maritime business in Astoria, and my daughter lives in Minneapolis with her family. And I have 13 grandchildren. So no great-grands, but 13 grandchildren. I don't know what else to tell. I'm not very exciting in that. I like to read. I have spreadsheets are one of my favorite. I know, a weirdo, but I love spreadsheets. I have a lot of my budget and all sorts of things with spreadsheets. I enjoy doing that. So we go to Calvary Chapel Church right downtown. I've been going there for a couple of years. I don't know what else to tell you. I think that pretty much covers it.
That was 2 minutes on the dot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And with that, we'll start the questions.
All right,
Mr.
sir.
Burke.
All right, tell us about your previous public service to the Woodland community, and have you ever attended a council meeting before?
I have. I've been to a dozen or more. I couldn't exactly put a number on it, but I've been to quite a few of them. I was coming back when Chief Crochet was the chief of police here back in that time frame. And as my wife's health deteriorated and got worse, then I got a little bit less involved with doing those kind of things, but I've been back to several since then. I have participated in both, the day of the Woodland Days where the cleanup can't remember exactly.
Make a difference day.
Yeah, Make a Difference Day, thank you. And I've been involved in the Planners Day, Woodland Planners Day celebration at our church, handing out candy, talking to people, doing those kinds of things. And I worked with the Clark County Sheriff's Office in their Christmas program where they give away bikes and do that kind of things for years. And when I used to take, when they would get done doing all their distribution, then I would ask them for the leftovers of whatever they had, and load them in a trailer and bring them to the Action Center to give them back bikes, food. And our philosophy was always, don't give it away if you yourself wouldn't eat it. If it's not good enough for your shelf, it can't be good enough for anybody else's shelf. So that's where that was.
Mrs. Holland.
Are there any issues that are of particular interest to you, and what do you hope to accomplish during this appointed term as a council member?
Well, the role of the Woodland city government has become very curious to me, and I've been on the webpage more and more, and how it interfaces with the Cowlitz County and Clark County. I'm kind of reading from my notes because that will work for me. I would enjoy being a part of a team to seek solutions in traffic congestion and on city streets, look at population density. I'm interested in better understanding the city budget, in relationships to tax structure, understanding operating costs and how the planning process works for the capital improvements, what funding is available for emergency projects. Does the city of Woodland have a dedicated grant writer? I think that got an answer to that recently. Be a member of a team for selection and hiring in all city departments. Seek job descriptions for all positions. Are there employee evaluations? I found out there are. And I did answer the second question, how often are the evaluations conducted and who conducts evaluations to the top leadership, such as the city manager. And get a better grasp of past infrastructure improvement delays that have led to the sudden impactful costs increases, and find solid solutions to keep that from happening again.
City council members must attend numerous meetings and keep up with multiple issues. Council meetings typically start at 7 p.m. on the first and third Monday of each month, and committee meetings prior to the city council meetings can start as early as 5 or 6 p.m. Are you able to commit to this amount of time and arrange your life schedule to participate fully as a member of the city council? And if so, explain how you will handle the demands of the job.
Yes, I can. I'm fully retired. I have other commitments. I go to Cowlitz County meetings. I go to Woodland School Board meetings. I do several meetings, but I keep a pretty extensive spreadsheet and calendar of where I'm supposed to be and what time I'm supposed to be, and that's all flexible. Those things can be, this job obviously would have to be of more importance than some of those others, and I'd have to find the time to organize my time to be able to do that, and that would not be a problem for me. I'm used to juggling schedules.
Do you intend to file for a council position in the next regular election?
I came through the back door on that one. I said, you know, I don't know yet. If I stood up here and told you that I had absolutely made that determination, I'd be lying to you because I don't know that. I will evaluate my effectiveness to serve and see how I do in that role, and then I'll make a decision. Okay?
What is the role of an individual Woodland City Council member?
Well, to serve the interests of the citizens of Woodland, to truly study the challenges that city leaders face in attempting to balance the needs of the city and its citizens. I think that's a key role, is that too many people don't understand the complexities. I didn't. I don't, all of them. And they're things that need to be discovered. It's a very complex issue. It's not easy. To partnership with city staff, the mayor and the Woodland City Council to better help citizens understand those challenges and are not viewed everything as a conspiracy, to set policies and implement legislation as directed.
Thank you. Do you have any experience in public finance and for reviewing and implementing and tracking budgets?
I do have a really extensive background in budget and budget management. I retired from the Air Force as a Chief Master Sergeant in a number Air Force in E9. That's the highest enlisted rank, you know that, JJ, that you can be. We had about 38,000 people that we were responsible for, and all the budgets that went into that. And so not only day-to-day operating expenses, but looking forward to whatever capital improvements may be coming down the line and need to be done. Many times you get a curveball thrown to you, and you have to find a way through that budget to implement the things that need to be done. So budgets are difficult. They're challenging, but they're not insurmountable if you understand what their purpose is, and if the budget's being maintained properly, you can. And then when I retired from the military, I was hired as the operations chief for the Clark County Event Center. It is not a Clark County position. It was a position with a group called the Fair Site Management Group. And so I worked for the CEO, and we reported to the Clark County, I think they were called commissioners at the time, or council. I'm not sure what the title was at the time. We worked directly for them, and our only money we made was washed through the county. It sounds like laundering. It wasn't. It went through the county, and then they paid us back as we maintained all the buildings. I had responsibility for four full-time county employees that worked on site, except for administratively. If they had administrative problems, then I would go to their department head, and they would deal with the administrative part of that. But it wasn't our place to be dealing with county procedure and how they took what they did with their employees. We could bring our dissatisfaction or concerns, and that was left up to them to deal with that. So the same thing there. I had, I think I had about 165 part-time employees from all walks of life, anything from the highest electricians and HVAC people down to people cleaning bathrooms. And so the scheduling, the budgeting, the payroll, those kinds of things belong to me. And I had to report to the CEO and the chief of finance to balance and justify those needs.
Thank you, and thank you for your service too, Len.
Oh, thank you, yes, sir.
Mr. Burke?
There are many situations where people disagree on issues. How do you handle disagreements and bring them to a closure?
This is a good one. I enjoyed this one. I think, you know, in situations regarding difficult issues, it's important to first understand the issue. Second, educate yourself on the conflict. Third, remove emotion and personal bias from the situation. And fourth, open a productive dialogue to find common ground for either solution or the issues clearing up themselves. I believe that in many cases it's just a matter of actively listening to the problem or potential problem, not trying to solve a problem that may not even exist. It's possible that the party that has the disagreement may just want to be an opportunity to be heard. So I think there's a lot of things by listening to people, you can discern where they're going, and you can decide whether or not you need to elevate that to the proper level.
How would you handle a complaint from a citizen that a city employee was rude?
Well, again, another interesting solution or interaction question. First of all, not all interactions are rude. Some people just don't get the response they expect, and the next thing you know, someone was rude to me. But if necessary, I would seek to speak to the appropriate department head and ask them to look into the matter and see if I could validate the alleged complaint and seek advice from fellow council members as to the appropriate action to take, if any.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the city in the next 2 years?
Well, coming from my perspective and not all knowing, but from what I see, development, traffic safety, congestion, rising costs of water, sewer, and garbage. What my neighbors and I don't see as ineffective and grossly misadministered is the recycling program that is done for us in the city of Woodland. It's very poorly done and very poorly managed. And conversations with Waste Connections, did I get that right? They are very unresponsive to talk to you about it and get to a level where you can really have a discussion. You know, I have very little concern about the fact that they don't have some place to take the glass. I don't have you know, those things are not my problem. We pay for a service that we're not getting, and so I think that needs to be looked at. That's what I would say. I would also like to see ways to keep business in Woodland and to attract more business to Woodland, to the city of Woodland. Jobs that provide long-term sustainable wages and benefits for employees. Encourage residents to use local business as much as possible. It's important that we have a Walmart, we have a Home Depot, we have lots of stuff, but we also have Mike Golick right down the street at True Value Hardware. We've got all sorts of people in this community that need our business. I found in my own personal experience that I can save a few pennies by maybe running all the way to Home Depot, but at the end of the day, Mike can provide me with almost everything I need in a timely manner. Larger products, larger woods and things are more difficult, but I think it's really important that we try to find a way to attract more business to the city of Woodland and keep the business that we have.
Thank you.
If appointed, what would you like to accomplish over the next year?
I'd like to help the citizens of Woodland to trust city leadership and to encourage citizens to become involved in their city. Too many times it's, my view has been it's very, very easy to find fault with what others do without knowing the full facts behind those. I've been in that same train. I know, I understand. And so when you get into it and start digging into things, and I thank you for a very wonderful website. It's really good. If people would just go on that website, there's so much you can find out on there that is more transparent than more people would like to agree or like to see. To attend more city council meetings, planning commission meetings, but also school board meetings and Cowlitz County Commissioner meetings as well. Just don't complain, voice your frustrations and seek answers. Encourage and investigate ways to increase legal voting participation. Encourage others to learn what it takes to lead and guide a city. It's not as simple as it looks.
How have you helped contribute to making Woodland a better community?
I struggled with that one, let me tell you. By being an observant citizen, I have called Chief Kelly or his department on many occasions, as well as the city, to complain about unlicensed door-to-door peddlers. I've searched them down, got their information, and called out to get them because they're not doing business the way they're supposed to be. I've also reported on at least more than one occasion illegal campers along the river. When I see them beginning to set up a camp or whatnot, I will not hesitate to call the police department and ask them to come take a look at that.
What level of experience experience do you have with Robert's Rules of Order or another parliamentary procedure system?
I got quite a bit of experience with Robert's Rules of Orders, both with the Clark County Fair Board had plenty of meetings, and Robert's Rules of Orders were used in that all the time, as well as, interesting enough, the military adapts them also. I've got 2 copies in my briefcase right now. I carry them with me most all the time. So, if I don't know it, I can find it.
All right. That was question 12. I have one more for you, and I split this up between the last candidate, but if you would like, you can incorporate into your last 2-minute closing
Sure.
Statement. I'll leave that one up to you just because I provided that to the last
Certainly.
candidate as well. Anything you forgot to mention to City Council or City Council should know about your qualifications before we release you this evening?
Well, I think it would be important to know that I've spent most of my adult life working as a team member, either in the military or with the Clark County Event Center. It's important to make a team. Now, making a team doesn't always mean that you're going to agree with everything that everybody says. That's not a team. What it is bringing your best game to the table, being polite, being kind, being courteous, study, intuitively know what's going on, ask questions when you don't know what it is, and learn. Margaret Thatcher, some people don't like quotes, I do. Margaret Thatcher was a very interesting individual. I didn't agree with everything she said, but she wrote a very interesting book. And in that book, she said, leadership is not consensus, but excellent leadership must recognize the skill and wisdom at their disposal. Members of that team must understand their role and at the conclusion of the mission, finish spent. Give it your all. Do everything you can. But at the end of that, nobody should be angry. People should be kind and compassionate and go on with their daily lives just because they don't agree. There's nothing to gain by being angry, unless you channel it properly. I enjoy camaraderie. I like friendly banter. I enjoy the challenges of mission accomplishment. But at the end of the day, I say it here, we must all be civil, even in disagreement. I will never go behind your back. I will state my views and my opinions, and I can recognize at times that I miss the point. I miss the point. I don't get it, and I need reminding. But at the end of the day, I will have your back, and I expect you to have mine. Differences, yes, but hostility in a team kills a team. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Anything else? Was that your 2-minute? Just because I asked the question and it sounds like you've given your 2-minute.
I would just add these last
Go ahead.
2 minutes, or last things here. You said there was going to be another question about why do you think you should be better than...
That was the one that I asked. The one that I asked. So is there anything else that City Council needs to know about your qualifications?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have confidence, punctuality, organizational abilities, scheduling of work, excellent communication skills, self-confidence and self-esteem, neatness, personal hygiene, and background and people skills. Those are things that I could bring to the table.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You send in Mrs. Ray Keene. Thank you. How things are going, might not have done the rules tonight. We'll see. Put in Mr. Houston last. He may just be John last. Good evening.
Good evening.
We'll provide you a 2-minute opener. Tell us about yourself, anything that you think is important that we should know before we get started, or council. I don't really get a vote, so it's really up to them. When I say we, I mean all of us, everyone here.
Collective we.
Collectively, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll start in with the 12 questions. I'll have a follow-up question at the end, and then a 2-minute closer. All right?
All right.
All right. And we'll start your 2 minutes right now.
Good evening. And my name is Jennifer Ray Keene. I live here in Woodland, of course. I live off of Ambassador Road, or Avenue. My husband is Jeff Ray, and we have 2 kids here in the Woodland School District. You all know me as the port director for the Port of Woodland, so no hiding that. Just excited to be here once again and have the opportunity to come in front of you and answer questions. I'll leave it short.
All right. Sounds good. And with that, we'll start with question number 1. Mr. Burke.
Tell us about your previous service to the Woodland community, and have you ever attended a council meeting?
Okay, I'm gonna get the giggles out. It'll be easier this way. Okay. So in my previous time of serving the city of Woodland, I have been on the salary commission. That was about 4 years ago, and that was a 1-year stint. And yes, I've been to many, many council meetings, not just during my time being the park director, but even before that. So I remember my first meeting was Chuck Blum was the mayor and asked a certain council member to leave the meeting.
That's a good first.
That was the first time of my introduction to the city of Woodland, and I remember calling my boss and going, what am I getting myself into?
Okay.
I can't answer the same way as I did last time, so I had to come up with new stuff.
Keeping it fresh. Are there any issues that are of particular interest to you, and what do you hope to accomplish during this appointed term as a council member?
So one of my pet things is obviously infrastructure and transportation. That is a key issue for me, and I think for many of our residents here in Woodland. And what I hope to accomplish, I think I said this last time as well, but there's not much you can accomplish as a single person or a single council person. It takes the body to do something, and so I hope serving the majority of our residents with transparency and positivity will probably be my hope.
City council members must attend numerous meetings and keep up with multiple issues. Council meetings typically start at 7 p.m. on the first and third Monday of each month, and committee meetings prior to the city council meetings. Meetings can start at as early as 5 or 6. Are you able to commit this amount of time and arrange your schedule to participate fully as a city council? Explain how you will handle the demands of the job.
So yes, I have, I can commit, and I have communicated that with my employers and my employees, and that should not be an issue. Regarding the how will I prioritize that, I think, it's the dedication of putting yourself out there for the position that you have to know that ahead of time. And really anybody who is going for a position on city council, you need to have that commitment. So I would not have applied if I could not have provided that commitment to all of you.
Thank you.
Do you intend to file for a council position in the next regular election?
After my last interview, I'm going to be absolutely honest, and this might kill me, but I'm going to be honest. It was a gut check, and I really wasn't even going to apply for the second round. And after the emotions came down, I'm not a highly emotional person, but after the emotions subsided, and I thought about it and thought, why did I apply the first time? And that commitment that I wanted to see through. So yes, I will, and I have done a lot of thinking about that because I had to after the first time. Was do I really want to do this, and can I put up with it? Because that's a hard thing, going in front of 5 of you, now 6, and then coming back, it is hard because it's a microcosm of what the whole population is going to judge you at. And so it's a popularity contest sometimes, especially a general election. And so I did think about it, and yes, I will.
What is the role of an individual Woodland City Council member?
The role is to be prepared for the meeting, read your material, have your questions prepared, attend as many as all meetings that you can. Sometimes you can't make them all. But as an individual, you do not have any other role outside of that position, because it's the body that is the council. The person is just a member of that body. But until the body is together, you have no power.
Do you have any experience in public finance or reviewing, implementing, or tracking budgets?
Yes. So I have successfully completed 8 budgets for the Port of Woodland. And prior to my time at the Port of Woodland, I had, when I was in my graduate studies, I had worked for 6 months for as a program through my graduate studies at the city of Tigard with their finance department.
There are many situations where people disagree on issues. How do you handle disagreements and bring them to a closure?
There's 2 ways to answer this, and I was thinking about this. There's one way with the public, and you can't change the public's mind. You can educate them, you can take their information, you can try to get all the facts of where they're coming from. So sometimes you just have to listen, and you can't argue, because arguing is usually not going to change anybody's mind. On the council, I say the best defense is Robert's Rules of Order. So sometimes there can be an argument, and you just say, what is, the, question, and you call to question and move forward with your vote.
How would you handle a complaint from a citizen that a city employee was rude?
So first and foremost, I think the place as a council member is to take that to, it would be in this case, Mayor Finn, if he's not available, to City Administrator Boyce, and let them know what I had heard from that citizen, and it is their role to take on those kind of complaints. I would ask that I receive some type of follow-up in case that citizen comes back to me and asks what happened, just in case they didn't get a follow-up, or they weren't happy with the answer, or they just want to, continue with their grievance. So, but I would also explain to that citizen, as a council member, that is not my position. That is the role of the mayor as well as Administrator Boyce.
What do you think the most important issue facing the city in the next 2 years?
Infrastructure. And that is not just pipes in the ground, but our transportation, it's our sidewalks, it is every single thing regarding movement of people and goods.
Thank you.
If appointed, what would you like to accomplish over the next year?
As I stated earlier, that I don't think I could accomplish much. Again, it's a short tenure, and government moves very slowly. And in that case, it is very difficult to state that you can accomplish anything. I would just hope that I would do good work for the people.
How have you helped contribute to making Woodland a better community?
I participate in lots of different things. Right now, one of the things that I'm most excited about is our Woodland Career exploration with the high school. It's something with the port and partnering with the high school and bringing businesses in. Hearing about students being excited about different companies that are in our communities. Some of those that are on port properties, some of them are just here in Woodland, and having them be excited about those and thinking that they can possibly get those jobs, be, future members of this, community, and providing, their community buy-in. That to me is one of the projects I love the best that I've contributed to. I think I also had mentioned in my previous interview that one of the projects that I think I love is with Planters Days, with the art project, and watching little kids get excited about Planters Day and what Planters Day means to them, and what the theme is, and then seeing their little drawings, and the parents get excited, the kids, it's just a cool thing to see our community come together.
And what level of experience do you have with Robert's Rules of Order or other parliamentary procedure systems?
So I deal with it a lot because of my day job at the port, but also with different committees I have been on, with the chamber, previously being on the chamber board, Rotary board, as well as with our Cowles Economic Development Council, using Robert's Rules of Order on a pretty regular basis.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Anything you forgot to mention to City Council or City Council should know about your qualifications before we release you and give you your 2 minutes?
So one of the things that I call it the elephant in the room, being the port director. I have heard that people think it's a conflict of interest that I have applied. I think we all have day jobs. My job, just by chance, is as a developer and a real estate broker and all of those things that go into being a port director. I'm passionate about this community. I live here, I work here, I shop here. I'm proud of this community. There are things that we all want to improve about our community, but it's my home, and I can't imagine another place being my home. I'm dedicated to this community. I like being part of all the committees and the community groups that we have, and there's just this passion about it. So when people say it's a conflict of interest, I don't understand that, and I know that's something that has come up, but I want you to know that though I am the port director, I'm not hiding that. I'm still a citizen of this community. I'm a proud citizen of this community, and I hope you'll take that into consideration.
And with that 2-minute closing, if you'd like.
Okay. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to apply for this position, and I really do want to give back to this community. Mr. Hall, you did not hear my statement I made the first time, but just so you know, I was a domestic violence survivor, and I moved to this community with my children as a single mom, and it was important that we felt protected, and this community protected me and my children, and it was something that I will never be able to pay back to this community. It is something that is truly in my heart, and I don't know how other way to be able to pay this community back other than to serve it in any way shape or form I can. So I just appreciate being able to be here. So.
All right. Thank you very much. And not that I need to pull the next one, but I'm going to, because we did change some rules at the beginning, but to see how it worked out, and it did work out with Mr. Aaron Alderman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
See, the universe is
The door's
working.
gonna close.
The universe is working. There we go.
Pete, you're gonna have to let him in, the door closed. Oh, did you fix it? Okay.
Good evening, sir. When you get up there, if you just adjust that microphone so it's kind of close as best you can, just so our folks at
With
home
my
can hear
voice,
you.
I don't think you're gonna need it.
There you go. Okay. We're going to start with a 2-minute opener and then go into our questions, and then I'll give you one final question, and then we'll let you do a 2-minute close. All right?
Great.
So with that, I will provide you 2 minutes to address council and introduce
Thanks.
yourself.
Some of you know me. I'm Aaron Alderman. Born, raised here, went through school, graduated, moved out for a while. Spent time in Marine Corps, Desert Storm veteran. I was one of the first 5 guys that went across the minefields in Desert Storm. Came back, married, lived in Castle Rock for 23 years, raised my kids up there. I was involved with the Castle Rock Two League Baseball League for many, many years. On the board of directors there for probably 9 years. Boys outgrew that. Then I got involved with the fire department for Tootle. Involved with that, went through many leadership classes, ended up leaving there due to getting old and beat up. So left there as a lieutenant. I've worked in the woods besides my time in the military, been a logger all my life to this day. Spent a lot of time working with the youth and stuff with the kids in Castle Rock. Now I'm starting all over with my grandson with youth here in this town. In fact, I'm had first baseball practice tonight. But I'm looking forward. I would really like to get involved with the town of Woodland. I grew up here, and I love this town. I spent a lot of good time, a lot of good memories, and there's a lot of great people still in this town, and I'd like to be part of the growth of it.
All right. Thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Burke.
Okay, tell us about your previous public service to the Woodland community, and have you ever attended a council meeting before?
I have attended a couple council meetings. Lately, since I've been tossing this around, trying to make the decision about I want to do this or not, I've been mostly going back and watching the YouTube meetings and stuff off YouTube, so I get a little more familiar with how things run and stuff like that. As far as with the Woodland community, I've just recently, I've only been back in town a few years, 7 years, and I started off with my grandson coaching football, baseball, and that's what I'm doing right now. And as far as being involved with the community, this is my first step, and then if you're going to step, why not take a big one right off the bat?
My turn now. Are there any issues that are of particular interest to you, and what do you hope to accomplish during this appointed term as a council member?
The particular issue that's biggest to me is the growth and infrastructure of our town. We all know that there's some issues with the infrastructure and how fast this town is growing. Yeah, there's a lot of people, weird to say for myself, an old timer in this town, that would like to see it stay the old Woodland of old, because this was an absolute wonderful place to grow up. I love this town. But you're going to live, you might as well have your head in the sand if you think you're not going to grow. It's going to grow. It's just a matter of growing it smart, what's going to be the best for the citizens of this town. It's been brought to my attention that the city streets, 90% of them are overdue for repaving, because we all know them streets are pretty rough. There's some of them, CC Street, I lived on when we first moved back to town. You need a kidney belt going down that thing. So we all know that there's some issues, but I think the growth and how it grows is the biggest for me.
City council members must attend numerous meetings and keep up with multiple issues. Council meetings typically start at 7 p.m. on the first and third Monday of each month, and committee meetings prior to the city council meetings can start as early as 5 or 6 p.m. Are you able to commit to this amount of time and arrange your life schedule to participate fully as a member of the city council? And if so, explain how you will handle the demands of the job.
Yeah, I have the time frame. It's not a problem. I start work. I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, go to work, and start loading trucks at 5, and I'm off by 3 o'clock. I'm home by 4 o'clock, no problem. As far as other things in my life with baseball, I'm just coaching my baseball team with my grandson, and that's very important to me. But I also have a great coaching staff with me, and they're aware of what I'm getting involved in a time frame, and they're like, no problem, we got this. So I got a lot of support behind me that actually kind of, we got it, go do it, let's go. So yeah, it's not an issue. And yeah, they go late, and Tuesday morning is probably going to be a little double cup of coffee on the way to work, but I've been doing this for so many years. 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night is not uncommon. It's not an issue.
Do you intend to file for a council position in the next regular election?
Yes.
Short and sweet.
What is the role of an individual Woodland City Council member?
For the city council, I believe that they're here to deal with the issues of the constituents, the public, the city of Woodland, with their issues and their problems, and deal with the complaints and stuff like that, and also deal with the policies and stuff that's been set in place, make sure everything's going according to Hoyle.
Do you have any experience in public finance or reviewing and implementing or tracking budgets?
I don't have a lot with big dollar budgets, but I was, on my time with the Lewis River Little League, I spent 3 years as the vice president, and we were in charge, if I'd have known it to begin with, before I took the position, but in charge of the concession stand. And that was a learning experience, dealing with all the legal part of that, because we used to do it in-house, and then they voted to let's hire somebody to come do it. So I had to oversee all that, and yeah, there's bumps along the way, but we got through it. It turned out pretty well, and we came out okay on it.
Okay, there are many situations where people disagree on issues. How do you handle disagreements and bring them to a closure?
The biggest thing you need to realize with disagreements, especially in something in this format, you gotta have respect for one another. If you I found over the years, and a lot of people in this town know me, when I was younger, it took a long time to learn this, but you get nowhere sitting here screaming at somebody. You have to respect the other person's issues and where they're coming from and how they feel about it, and you gotta do it mutually to find common ground. And you have to keep in mind that everybody here is here for what's best for the city of Woodland. And if you're not dealing with what's best for the whole city, then you're never going to get through a conflict or agree on anything.
How would you handle a complaint from a citizen that a city employee was rude?
This is the one question on the list that I really spend a lot of time on thinking about, because I've had to deal with this. My time with the fire department, I went through a lot of leadership classes. The first thing, especially with city employees, even us, PD, everybody, we're here to serve the public. But first of all, you're never going to make everybody happy. But the first thing I think you need to do is get all three sides of the story, because we all know a lot of words, people's description of the situation, what happened, certain words can lean it either way. And so both sides are going to have their own version of the story. So you got to try to find out what happened in the middle. And then if you need to dig in, if this employee for the city, if it's a routine thing, if it's a reoccurring thing, then you're going to have to talk to the supervisor and find those things out. And it could be a point where maybe just some counseling, one-on-one from his boss, say, hey, you need to have a conversation with this guy. But if it is a reoccurring thing, it could be a little more drastic measures. But the one thing I did learn, you have to have a paper trail. Everything you do in something like this, you need to document everything. Conversations with the person, the complainant, and the person, and the people that are in charge of him, because God forbid if it happens where you do have to let somebody go, it's always best to have that paper trail. Okay, I've covered A, B, and C, but actions aren't changing any. We've taken steps, and this is what it has, just in case, because I learned a long time ago in the fire service that you got to cover your behind. And if you don't have a paper trail, you don't have nothing in those circumstances.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the city in the next 2 years?
Well, I covered it in another previous question, but it's the growth and infrastructure of this town. We all know the traffic. If you come through this part of town in certain parts of the days, give yourself some time because you're not going to get to where you want to be on time. I've been talking with some of the PD guys, just asking questions, just because this is thinking about doing this. And certain times of the day, they have two people on, one on east side, one on west side, just because of the traffic situation. Because they can't say they're over here, and something happens over on the other side, they can't get across. Now we're dealing with public safety, and that's something that's got to be paramount.
Thank you.
If appointed, what would you like to accomplish over the next year?
We all know that problems with the growth, the infrastructure, it's not going to be done overnight. If you think somebody can walk in here with a golden ticket and then they answer, you're crazy. But I would like to be part of finding those answers. If I wish I had an answer. I have ideas. They may be crazy, but I like to be part of the growth of this town because I grew up in this town, and this town is a great place, and it still can be. It is now. There's some issues, not so great. Of course there is, but I want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
How have you helped contribute to making Woodland a better community?
It starts with the kids, because it's our future, and I love the kids, and I've been involved with the kids since Castle Rock when my boys were old enough to do anything, and I'm happy as ever to start all over with my grandson. And I'm getting very well acquainted with the youth. I coached baseball last year, youth football with my grandson. Now we're starting again in baseball, and he just got through with basketball. I'm getting really acquainted with all his buddies and stuff, and it's pretty cool. And we gotta do better for them.
What level of experience do you have with Robert's Rules of Order or other parliamentary procedures?
Both with the fire department and the baseball league. The business meeting with the fire department, we use Robert's Rules for the business meetings that we had. We had 2 meetings a month. One was training, and the other one was business meetings. We had auxiliaries, and we did fundraising and stuff for scholarships, and we used Robert's Rules for that. And with the baseball league for so many years, with all of those meetings, we used Robert's Rule. It's been a day or two. Am I going to have to refresh? Absolutely. But yeah, I have some experience in it.
All right. And with that, anything you forgot to mention to council or city council should know about your qualifications before we release you and give you your final 2 minutes to close out?
As far as qualifications, I can tell you right now, there's people that deal with finance and they go to lots of meetings that have probably more qualified than I am. But I believe that homegrown for me is the way to go. And like I said, it's really hard to call myself an old timer in this town, but I'm getting there. And some of us that grew up here that knew what it was like back in the day, it's never going to be that, but it can be great. And I really would want to be part of that.
All right. And with that, I can give you 2 minutes to close.
First of all, I'll say thank you all for giving me the chance to come up and talk and answer a few questions. I never thought I would be up here for a position like this. In fact, a lot of people I went to school with, I was talking to her like, "You're what?" Yeah, I am, because I think it'd be a great honor to be part of it. And everybody knows it's not easy, but you guys have been, lack of better terms, hell the last few years. And we know it's not easy. But anybody knows me growing up here, I've never ran away from a fight. And I'm willing to fight for this town.
All right.
But thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And if you could do me a favor and send in Mr. Houston, that would be great. Thank you. I didn't hear what you said.
You're next on the chopping block.
Good evening, Mr. Houston. A little bit of different format from last time, not much, but you'll have a 2-minute opening to address council. Tell us about yourself, and then we'll go into the questions like last time, and then you'll have a one final question from me, and then a 2-minute closing. Okay? So with that, I am going to give you a 2-minute opener to introduce yourself to council.
Hello, my name is Gabe. Lifetime resident, been here 47 years. I have 6 kids, ages 10, 13, 17, 18, 22, and 23. And they've all went to school here. My dad went to school here, so we've been here a long time. And funny story real quick is my wife's, she didn't know she has family that were from here, and one of her relatives who's buried up here at the cemetery, he's a Civil War veteran, and was one of the first 10 residents in Woodland. And we didn't know that when we got married until years later, and found out she has other relatives buried at the Hayes Cemetery upriver. So we have a long history here in town. So that's about it.
All right, sounds good. And before we take the first question, I'm going to make sure that the microphone is kind of close so our folks at home can hear you. That would be great. Okay?
Yep.
And with that, Mr. Burke.
Okay, tell us about your your previous public service to the Woodland community, and secondly, have you ever attended a council meeting before?
Yes, I've attended council meetings. Started coming, I think, December, and been to every one, I think, except for last week I missed because we were out of town. And what number was that question? I'm sorry.
Number 1.
Oh, number 1. Okay. I'm involved with our church, and we volunteer regularly. We do a community garden, and we give all the produce to the community. And yes, I've attended meetings, and I plan on running before the seat became vacant. So I'd applied for the position before there was a vacancy, just because I wanted to get on the city council.
Okay, are there any issues that are of particular interest to you, and what do you hope to accomplish during this appointed term as a council member?
Development and infrastructure are 2 things that interest me. Also, utilities, billing, and fees are issues that need help, and I'd love to be involved in decisions that will make Woodland a better place when I'm done on the council.
Okay. City council members must attend numerous meetings and keep up with multiple issues. Council meetings typically start at 7 p.m. on the first and third Monday of each month, and committee meetings prior to city council meetings can start as early as 5 to 6 p.m. Are you able to commit this amount of time and arrange your life schedule to participate fully as a member of the city council? And if so, explain how you can handle the demands of the job.
Yeah, I can make my schedule however to work. That's not an issue. Like tonight, I drove 4 hours just to get here for the meeting, so I can arrange it however I need to make it work.
Okay.
I think you might have answered this one, the first one, but do you intend to file for a council position in the next regular election?
Oh, yes, I planned on that before this even became a vacant seat. Yeah, I already talked to the people up in the voting Cowlitz County, and they're going to inform me when I can file, and I plan on it.
What is the role of an individual Woodland City Council member?
To represent my district and determine city government and administrative policies, as well as adapting budgets and legislation. To do the very best to represent my constituents only after you've seen to the needs of the city as a whole.
Do you have any experience in public finance for reviewing and implementing or tracking budgets?
Well, I worked in real estate for 7 years before I got in the elevator business, and I was project manager on a lot of spec homes and did all the budgeting and draw schedules with the bank and paying all the subcontractors. So, yeah, I have experience with budgeting and finance.
Oh, there are many situations where people disagree on issues. How do you handle disagreement and bring them to a closure?
Be a calming agent and listen actively. Analyze the conflict while using neutral language. Separate the person from the conflict. Work together and agree to disagree. You have to maintain confidentiality and must be creative but also specific.
Sorry, I'm still writing. Number 8, how would you handle a complaint that from a citizen that a city employee was rude?
I would focus on the facts, be empathetic and listen. Repeat what the citizen says back to them, offer solutions, offer a sincere apology, stay polite and stay calm, thank them for voicing their concerns, and set up a time for a follow-up with the citizen.
What do you think is the most important issue facing the city in the next 2 years? Number 9.
I think infrastructure and development are probably one of the 2 biggest things, and also building a good working relationship between the residents and the city council and the city employees.
Thank you.
If appointed, what would you like to accomplish over the next year?
Let's see. Resolve the utilities and billing problems and win back the trust of the city residents, and by working together and communicating with residents and city officials and the council members so we can resolve any issues and just work as a team.
How have you helped contribute to making Woodland a better community?
Well, I've invested 47 years into the town, and I help a lot of residents and organizations with projects and anyone that actually anyone that's in need. I help on the Make a Difference Day, build benches over at the school, donate my time and materials for projects at the preschool. Anything I can to help anyone.
And what level of experience do you have with Robert's Rules of Order or another parliamentary procedure system?
That is the same rule of order that we use in our union that I belong to. So our meetings are very similar to the way that you guys run the council. So I'm very familiar with it.
All right. Last question. Anything you forgot to mention to council or city council should know about your qualifications before we move on to your 2-minute closing statement?
Anything more? I don't know. No, I can't think of anything.
Okay. Then with that, we will provide you 2 minutes, a 2-minute closing statement.
I just hope that I really want to be involved in the city council. I've spent my entire life here and had a really good time growing up in this town, and just want to give back now that I'm in a position where I can do that. And I want my kids to have the same memories that we had growing up, and just because I don't think we could have lived anywhere better than here. So I just want to keep the town like it is, because we love Woodland and we want it to stay how it is, so my kids can experience the same things we did.
All right. Thank you, sir. And with that, Mr. Boyce, I'll have you can stay in the room now. We're not going to kick you out.
Okay.
And Mr. Boyce, you want to grab the other candidates, please?
Thank you.
Since I drove 4 hours. to get here.
Have another seat. Bring my glasses in today. What? Those aren't gonna work. No.
If you squint really
Let's
hard.
squint. I think it's just because I'm like right here. Ridiculous. All right. Well, with that, we've completed the interviews this evening, and the time is now 8:29, and we'll be going into an executive session regarding RCW 42.30.110, Section 1, subsection H, to evaluate the qualifications of a candidate for appointment to elective office. At this time, well, it's now 8:30. How much time would City Council like to? Should we start with 15 minutes? 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
Let's do 20 minutes. All right.
20 to 30.
That's what I was.
Well, we can't come back early, so why don't we start with 20? So if we say 30, we can't. We're gonna, and you get done early. So it's 8:30 now. We'll be back at 8:50, and with that, we are going to be in executive session now. Yep. Yeah, I hope so, because you're doing it. So.
Oh, thank you.
Recording stopped.
I was putting it on, taking it off.
Well, maybe not a motor. That's probably how I get myself into this. No, I've already fallen 3 times off this side. I think it's trying to kill me.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. The time is now 8:50. We are still in executive session, and we are going to extend that executive session an additional 10 minutes to 9 p.m.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
The time is 9:01. We are still in executive session. We will be going for an additional 14 minutes, and we will be returning at 9:15.
Recording stopped.
9:15 right now. Perfect timing.
Recording in progress.
The time is now 9:15. We are out of executive session and back into regular session. We'll take a few moments here for council to take their seats. Or in my case, my wheels. Yeah. I feel like somebody messed with my seats. I don't know.
Are you lower? You
I
look
feel like I'm
lower.
lower. I feel like somebody came up here and, no, fine, we'll just leave it. I'll just, no, don't touch it. All right, at this time, we are moving on to, let's see where my, action item B, take nominations for city council position number 4.
I make a motion that we appoint Aaron Alderman
I'll
to
second that.
city council.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Burke, seconded by Mr. Hall, to nominate Mr. Aaron Alderman to city council position number 4. Mr. Burke.
Oh, we had a lot of good candidates this time, really. And I think he could be very beneficial to the community to be appointed.
Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we saw tonight was a lot of skill, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. We looked down through the list. That was not an easy discussion, just because we have a lot of great candidates, and everyone brought something special that was important to us. But I like Mr. Alderman's background in this community, and I like what he can bring to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Further discussion? Mr. Smith.
I have a little different take on it. I think as far as the long-range planning goes, I think we have a candidate that's extremely qualified. I do like Mr. Alderman. I think he's a great guy. But as far as long-range planning, I think we have somebody that might be more qualified.
Anything further? Mrs. Dowdy?
I would second that.
Any further discussion?
Well, the only
Mrs.
thing
Rounds.
I will say is we have had some very good candidates here tonight. And for the one that doesn't get picked, or for the ones that doesn't get picked, there's an election coming in November, and several positions are up. And so I would encourage them to vote, to get on the ballot and see what you can do at that point, and let the people, because this is really a tough decision up here to have to make. Because like everybody said, we've got a lot of good people out here that is applying for the position, and it's not an easy thing to have to do, because we see these people in the community, we work with them, we are on boards with them, and so it's one of the toughest decisions I've had to make. My entire time, I went through this a couple years ago, and going through it twice this year. It's one of the hardest decisions I think I've had to make in all the meetings I've gone to tell you the truth. It's the toughest position to have to take at this time. So that's all I've got to say.
Mr. Smith.
Biggest concern is conflict of interest with one of the candidates. And I think that's a big determining factor right now. So.
Seeing nothing else, Mrs. Hogan, will you please take the vote on action item B, nomination for Aaron Alderman to city council position number 4.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
No.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Burke.
Aye.
The ayes have it 5-1. At this time, we've come to the end of our meeting.
Move to end the meeting.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Rounds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The time is 9:20.
It is.
Recording stopped.